It was so cold, your breath is literally being taken away. You know, I just like, okay, concentrate, breathe, breathe, breathe.
Katie actually had to stop because she was so cold that she was kind of convulsing.
America's Next Top Model was one of the most successful and longest running reality TV shows that ever aired, although the show has wrapped now. But because of the ruthless competitive nature of the show, some stuff went down that would definitely not be acceptable today. And that's what I'm going to be filling you in on in this video. What's up everyone, I'm Mackenzie, you're watching IO, and today I'm going to be listing the top 10 problematic America's Next Top Model moments. And trust me, there's probably a lot more than 10. So subscribe if this is your first time here and you want to be kept in the loop if I end up making a part 2. And as someone who used to be obsessed with becoming a model and would watch this show religiously, it's so crazy to hear about these moments so many years later and really see how much has changed for the better. Okay, so now without further ado, let's get into it. In at number 10, wrongfully terminated. One model named Angela, who was on cycles 14 and 17, actually ended up having her title stripped after the fact because the producers later found out that she was once an escort. And because she felt blindsided by the show, she decided to sue for damages, which I totally agree with. Apparently before they filmed season 17, Angela confronted the producers and told them she was an escort for about a year, long before she ever became affiliated with the show. And they never said anything until after she ended up winning the show, and then she was grilled about her past, where she stated she was not a prostitute but a legal escort. But despite this, she still ended up having her title stripped as she had violated her contract. But because the title being taken away put her financials in jeopardy, she ended up suing the show for $3 million in damages. And the show definitely deserved to be sued here because someone's past should not take away an opportunity like that, especially if they knew before giving her the title. Like, that doesn't even make sense. Up at number 9, the rant. Back in cycle 4, one of the most memed and memorable moments of reality TV took place. And that's when Tyra shouted at a girl and said, quote, "We were all rooting for you," while she looked so angry. And if anyone actually thinks twice about this viral meme that I constantly see on Twitter, it makes you wonder what she actually did to make Tyra so mad. But when Tiffany was interviewed by BuzzFeed years later, we got a look inside how cruel it all actually was, with Tiffany saying that the whole experience really scarred her, especially a part that was cut out from TV, where Tyra said something along the lines of, quote, "You can go back to your house and sleep on your mattress on the floor with your baby," in front of the other judges, contestants, and crew members, according to this BuzzFeed article. And even Tyra thinks she took that moment too far, with her saying that if it was her, she definitely wouldn't have aired that, but also insisting that it all came from a place of love. But sadly, it defined this girl for probably the rest of her life. Up at number 8, checked out early. Back in cycle 6, a girl named Danielle fell ill with exhaustion, dehydration, and food poisoning while in Thailand. And when it got bad enough, she was rushed to the hospital. But sadly, the show did not wait for her, and since she didn't want to end up getting penalized in the competition, she ended up checking herself out early from the hospital so she could partake in the photo shoot. And even though the doctors were begging her to stay in the hospital, she said, quote, "There's no way that I'm missing the competition." And after it was all said and done, Banks praised her for pushing through the pain to get the shot. But others felt that she shouldn't have been praised, and the show should have actually done something to promote the fact that you shouldn't risk your health and well-being for a photo shoot. Up at number 7, freezing cold water. In cycle 7, one of the last challenges was for the final 4 models to pose for the photo shoot in a freezing cold pool. I guess the whole point was to test these models' physical limits. But also, how many photo shoots would actually be in water that cold, right? I'm hoping none. But one contestant, Charity, had to leave the shoot early after getting hypothermia. But to make matters worse, she kinda got blamed by Tyra and the judges for not speaking up about how cold the water was, when the whole point was that the water was cold and to basically suck it up. And after this, the vibe was that she just wasn't physically strong enough to become a top model. But she ended up proving them wrong, because she actually ended up winning the show that season. In at number 6, Tyra faints. In one season, Tyra came into a room with all the girls in it, and after talking about how tired she was, ended up fainting. And it was incredibly convincing until Tyra revealed the whole thing was actually fake. And she did this whole stunt because the theme of that week was gonna be on acting. But aside from that just being not cool and really freaking some of these girls out, I'm sure it was also kind of triggering to some of the girls as well, because especially back then, models had very strict requirements for their measurements, and this could cause people to do very unhealthy things with their diet. As well, a past contestant did actually faint in cycle 4 and had to go to the hospital. So this one just felt a little tone deaf to me. Halfway through at number 5, tooth gap. In cycle 6, Tyra made a lot of fans angry when she essentially forced a 21-year-old girl to close a gap in her teeth. In the show, Tyra told the girl that she wasn't marketable with her teeth, and that she could never have a CoverGirl contract because nobody would be able to stop staring at her tooth gap. But the sad part was that Danny was very happy and proud of her gap coming into the show. But later on in the show, she had it closed after her options were to get it closed or to go back home. It's not only ridiculous that a model had to permanently change something about them to appease the show, but the fact that they don't even have their minds straight on the matter. As in a later season, one of the models actually got their tooth gap widened on the advice of Tyra to look more like Lauren Hutton. And if I was Danny, I would have been so mad, like you guys don't even understand. Up at number 4, inappropriate attention. On one season of the show, the women were doing a sexy photo shoot where they were in the middle of 3 men. And unfortunately, one male model took things too far, and one model named Kenya was made very uncomfortable by the man grunting in her ear as well as inappropriately touching her during the shoot. And the worst part was that when she got the courage to say something about it, they basically brushed her off and implied nothing inappropriate could be going on as they were all on set with her. And then they made matters worse when they all went to dinner after, and Kenya looked very uncomfortable being around him. And as she said in the show, he definitely crossed a professional line for her, and something really should have happened to stop that. And at number 3, night blindness. In one of the seasons, the competition that week was to walk down a runway at night when it was very dimly lit. But for one contestant that became completely blind at night, this was a big issue obviously, and all the girl asked was that she could see the runway beforehand to get a feel for it, but they ended up rejecting her, saying that they didn't want to give her an unfair advantage. Luckily, there was some glitter that was able to give her a good indicator of where the runway was, but that was still too dangerous of a situation to put someone in, and they should have accommodated her to make it more fair. And at number 2, race switching. One thing that was seen on the show multiple times in its long run was various forms of face and race switching. One instance was in cycle 4, where the women were told their ethnicities would be switched. In one case, they turned a model who was part black into a dark-skinned traditionally African woman, and the point was to take on the persona of the other race and I guess own it, but since you can't act like another race, this was definitely incredibly tone deaf. And finally at number 1, nude challenges. A long-running issue with the show was the fact that they pushed models to pose nude, even if that was something that they were strongly against. The worst moment of this was in cycle 1, when 2 women refused to participate in the semi-nude shoot because of religious beliefs, and they both ended up in the bottom 2. One of the judges even said to the model, quote, "If you're not willing to do that, you might as well go work at a car factory or a bakery, because that's part of being a model." But there was hypocrisy in this case as well, as Tyra Banks said she doesn't participate in nude shoots, only doing simulated nude shoots where a G-string is edited out of the picture. And it's really sad that the show wouldn't respect personal limits and make it seem like women could only be models if they showed some skin. Thankfully, this isn't actually the case, and there are plenty of models that are modest as well as being incredibly successful. Okay everyone, well that's all I have for you today. Let me know your thoughts on all these moments below, or were there any that I missed that could be in a part 2? Also let me know if you're a big fan of the show and if any of these moments made you cringe back then when you watched them. But before I go, I'm gonna shout out some comments from my Trisha calling out the vlog squad video. So Brittany said, "Hey, you're back in the studio. Woo! By the way, I love this background." Yes, thank you. It feels really good to be back. Other than the waking up early part, which is really difficult for me, but I'm working on it. Then Cheris said, hey, I don't remember when YouTube was fun. Freaking Tati had to start drama last year, now everyone wants drama. Honestly, I've been watching YouTube for a long time, and I truly can't remember a time when drama wasn't a thing. I also do have pretty bad memory, so like, you know, we'll consider that as well, but I just feel like it's been so heightened the past, I don't even know, like 5 years, you just cannot avoid it, and now everyone's taking that route. If you get in drama, you get a little bit of clout, and you could usually, you know what I mean, get your 15 minutes of fame off that. Not really a great thing that's happening. Okay everyone, that's all for me today. Thank you so much for watching if you made it all the way here, and be sure to like, subscribe, and follow us to be kept up to date with all the news and tea that you will ever need. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one.